phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. When it came near him, Scrooge went down upon his knees. For in the air through which this spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. It was shrouded in a deep black garment that concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand. He knew no more, for the spirit neither spoke nor moved. I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come, ghost of the future. I fear you more than any other spirit that I have seen. But since I know that your purpose is to do me good, and since I hope to be another man from what I was, I'm prepared to bear your company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak? It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them. Well, lead on, spirit, lead on. The night is waning fast, it's precious time to me, I know. Lead on, spirit. Well, they scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city, rather, seemed to spring up about them. And there they were, in the heart of it, on the exchange amongst the merchants. The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen, and observing that the hand was pointed towards them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk. "No," said a great fat man with a monstrous chin. "I haven't heard much about it either way. I only know he's dead." "When did he die?" inquired another. "Last night, I believe." "Why, but whatever was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die." "God knows," said the first with a yawn. "Well, what has he done with the money?" "I haven't heard. Company, perhaps. All I know is that he hasn't given it to me. Bye-bye." Well, Scrooge is at first inclined to be surprised that the spirit should attach importance to conversation apparently so trivial. But feeling assured that it must have had some hidden purpose, he set his mind to consider what it was likely to be. Well, it could scarcely have any bearing on the death of Jacob, his old partner, for that was the past, and this ghost province was the future. He looked about in that very place for his own image. But another man stood in his accustomed corner, and although the clock pointed to his usual time of day for being there, he saw no likeness of himself amongst the multitudes that passed him through the porch. This gave him little surprise, however, for he had been revolving in his mind a change of life, and he thought and hoped that he saw his newborn resolutions carried out in this. Well, they left this busy scene and went into an obscure part of the town, to a low shop where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, greasy offal were bought by a grey-haired rascal of great age who sat smoking a pipe. And Scrooge and the Phantom had just come into the presence of this man when a woman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop. She had scarcely come in when she was followed by another woman similarly laden, and she too by a man in faded black. "What have you got to sell? What have you got to sell?" "Here. Open that bundle, old Joe. Let me know the value of it." Joe went down upon his knees for the greater convenience of opening the bundle, poured out a large and heavy roll of some dark stuff. What do you call this then? Bed curtains? Oh, bed curtains. Here, don't you drop oil on them blankets now. What? His blankets? Well, whose else's do you think? He ain't likely to take cold with them now, I dare say. Oh, now you may look through that shirt as much as you like, but you won't find a hole in it nor a threadbare place. It's the best one he had, and a fine one too. Yeah, they'd have wasted it by dressing him up in it if it hadn't been for me. Well, Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror. Spirit, I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Oh, merciful heaven, what is this? The scene had changed, and now he almost touched a bare, uncurtained bed. The pale light rising in the outer air fell straight upon this bed, and on it, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, lay the body of this plundered man unknown. Oh, Spirit, let me see some tenderness connected with the death, or this dark chamber, Spirit, will be ever present to me. The ghost conducted him to poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before. And found the mother and her children seated round the fire. Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and her daughters were engaged in needlework, but surely they were very quiet.
And he took a child and set him in the midst of them.
Where had Scrooge heard those words? He had not dreamt them. The boy must have read them out as he and the phantom had crossed the threshold. But why did he not go on? The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her eyes. The colour hurts my eyes. The colour. Ah, poor Tiny Tim. They're better now again. It makes them weep by candlelight. And I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for all the world. It must be near his time now. Past it, rather, said Peter, shutting up the book before him. But I think he's walked a little slower than he used these last few evenings, Mother. Well, I've known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed. Oh, here's your father at the door now. She hurried out to meet him. Little Bob, in his comforter, he had need of it, poor fellow, came in. Bob was very cheerful with them, spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table and praised Mrs. Cratchit and her daughters for their speed and industry. They'd be done long before Sunday, he said. Sunday? You went today then, Robert? Yes, my dear. Wish you could have gone. Would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. Promised him we'd walk there on a Sunday. Oh, my little child. Oh, my little child. down all at once. Couldn't help it. Well, if he could have helped it, then he and his child might perhaps have been farther apart than they really were. Spirit, said Scrooge, I feel that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me, what was that man with the covered face whom we saw lying dead? The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him to a dismal, wretched, ruinous churchyard. The spirit stood amongst the graves and pointed down to one. Before I draw nearer to that grave to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be, or are they the shadows of the things that may be only? Still, the spirit pointed down towards the grave by which it stood. Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, which, if persevered in, the ends must lead. But if the courses be departed from, the ends must change. Say it is thus with what you show me. The spirit was as immovable as ever, and Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. Am I that man whom we saw lying dead? No, no, spirit, no, hear me. I'm not the man I was. I could not be the man I was but for this intercourse. Why show me this if I'm past all hope? Or show me that I yet may change these shadows you have shown me by an altered life. And for the first time, the kind hand faltered. I'll honour Christmas with all my heart and try to keep it all the year. I'll live in the past, the present and the future. The spirits of all three will strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone. And holding up his hands for one last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress as it shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. But best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make amends in. He was checked at his transports by the church bells ringing out the lustiest peals he had ever heard. And running to the window, opened it, stuck out his head. There's no fog, no mist, no night, but a clear, bright, stirring, golden day. What's today? Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy in Sunday clothes who perhaps had loitered in to look about him. Eh? What's today, my fine friend? Today? Well, it's Christmas Day. It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. Hello, my fine friend. Hello. Tell me, do you know the poulterers in the next street but one on the corner? Well, I should hope I did. What a remarkable boy, an intelligent boy. Tell me, do you know if they sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Now, not the little prize turkey, but the big prize turkey. What, the one that's as big as me? What a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to speak to him. Yes, my buck. It's still hanging there now, is it? Or go and buy it. You what? No. I'm in earnest. Go and buy it and tell him to bring it here that I may give him the direction where to take it. Now you come back with a man, I'll give you a shilling. Come back with a man in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown. The boy was off like a shot. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. He shan't know who sent it. It's the size of Tiny Tim. The hand in which he wrote the note was not a steady one, but write it he did somehow, and went downstairs to open the street door, ready for the coming of the poulterer's man. Oh, it was a turkey. He never could have stood upon its legs, that bird. They would have snapped him off short like sticks of sealing wax. He dressed himself, all in his best, and at last got out into the streets. The people by this time were pouring forth as he had seen them with the ghost of Christmas present, and Scrooge, walking with his hands behind his back, regarded everyone with a delighted smile. It looked so irresistibly pleasant, in a word, that 3 or 4 good-humoured fellows said, "Oh, hello, sir, Merry Christmas." And Scrooge said often afterwards that of all the blithe sounds he had ever heard, those were the blithest in his ears. In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock, but he made a dash and did it. "Is your master at home, my dear?" said Scrooge to the girl. A nice girl. Very. "Yes, sir." "Where is he, my love?" "Well, he's in the dining room, sir, with mistress." "He knows me," said Scrooge, with his hand already on the dining room lock. "I'll go in here, my dear." "Fred!" "Why, bless my soul," cried Fred. "Who's that?" "It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. Will you let me in?" Let him in. It's a mercy he didn't shake his hand off. Well, he was at home in no time. Nothing could be heartier. His niece looked just the same when she came. So did Topper when he came. So did the plump sister when she came. So did everyone when they came. It was a wonderful party. Wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness. But he was early at the office the next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could just catch Bob Cratchit coming late, that is what he set his heart upon, and he did it. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1/4 past. No Bob. Bob was a full 18½ minutes behind his time. Bob's hat was off before he'd opened the door, and his comforter too, and was on his stool in a jiffy and driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. "Hello," growled Scrooge in his accustomed voice as near as he could feign it. "What do you mean by coming in at this time of day?" "Oh, I am rather behind my time, sir. I'm sorry." "Yes, I think you are. Now step this way, if you please." "Oh, it won't happen again, sir. It's only once a year. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir." "Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer, and therefore," continued Scrooge, and giving Bob such a dig in the waistcoat, he went staggering back into the tank again, "and therefore, I'm going to raise your salary." Bob trembled. "Merry Christmas, Bob," said Scrooge, with an earnestness that could not be mistaken as he clapped him on the back. "A Merry Christmas, Bob, and merrier than I have given you in many a year. I shall raise your salary and endeavour to assist your struggling family. And we shall discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob. I'll set up the fires and go out and buy a second coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit."
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but his own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived in that respect upon the total abstinence principle thereafterwards. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well if any man alive possessed the knowledge. And may that be truly said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us.